Think about it. How many times have you cooked a delicious meal, had some left over, and thought, great lunch for tomorrow? It's such a common, almost automatic thing we all do. It's convenient, it saves money, and it feels like we're being smart with our food, avoiding waste. But what if I told you that some of those seemingly harmless reheated meals, those very dishes you look forward to enjoying again, could actually be doing more harm than good? What if, without realizing it, you're putting your health at risk, even potentially poisoning your body, simply by reheating certain foods the wrong way? It sounds dramatic, I know, and it's certainly not something we're taught explicitly. But for us, especially as we get a little older, our bodies react differently. Our immune systems aren't quite as robust as they once were, and what might have been fine in our younger years can now lead to uncomfortable, even dangerous, consequences. The painful reality is that many of us are unknowingly inviting trouble to our plates, just trying to be economical or save time. In this video, we're going to pull back the curtain on this often overlooked secret. We'll uncover 5 common foods that you should absolutely think twice about reheating. We'll explore precisely why they become problematic, and what simple, practical steps you can take to protect yourself and your loved ones from potential harm. Understanding these hidden risks is key to maintaining your vitality and peace of mind in your golden years. Stick with me until the very end, because I promise there's something you'll discover that will genuinely surprise you. And it could change how you approach leftovers forever. Let's dive right into our first food. One that's a staple in kitchens all over the world, often found lingering in the fridge after a takeaway meal or a big family dinner: rice. Now, you might think, what could possibly be wrong with reheating rice? I do it all the time. And that's precisely the common misconception we need to address. The danger with rice isn't about the act of reheating itself, but what can happen before and during the reheating process if it's not handled correctly. The culprit here is a microscopic spore-forming bacterium called Bacillus cereus. These tiny spores are naturally present in uncooked rice. While cooking rice will kill the active bacteria, the spores themselves can survive the cooking process. The real problem starts if cooked rice is left to cool slowly at room temperature. This warm, moist environment is exactly what those surviving spores need to germinate and multiply rapidly. As they multiply, they produce toxins, nasty little chemicals that are designed to make you sick. And here's the crucial part: these toxins are heat resistant. This means that even if you reheat the rice thoroughly, until it's steaming hot, those toxins won't be destroyed. You could be eating rice that looks, smells, and tastes perfectly fine, but it's laden with invisible troublemakers. For us, as we get older, our digestive systems can become a little more sensitive, and our immune systems might not be as quick to fend off invaders. What might give a younger person a mild stomachache could leave someone over 60 with severe vomiting, debilitating diarrhea, and intense abdominal cramps. Dehydration from these symptoms can be a serious concern, leading to fatigue, dizziness, and even requiring medical attention, especially if you have other underlying health conditions. So, how do we safely handle rice? It's simpler than you might think, but it requires swift action. Firstly, always serve rice immediately after it's cooked. Hot and fresh is best. If you have leftovers and want to save them, you must cool the rice as quickly as possible. Don't leave it sitting on the kitchen counter for hours. The goal is to get it from cooking temperature down to refrigeration temperature within 1 hour. A great trick is to spread the cooked rice out on a shallow tray or plate. This increases the surface area, allowing it to cool much faster than if it's left in a deep pot. Once it's cool to the touch, transfer it to an airtight container and pop it straight into the fridge. And critically, consume that refrigerated rice within 1 day, preferably within 24 hours. When you do reheat it, make sure it's piping hot all the way through, steaming vigorously. Never reheat rice more than once. If in doubt, when it comes to rice, it's always better to throw it out. Imagine preparing a lovely chicken curry with a big batch of fluffy rice. You serve it up, and later, you pop the leftovers into the fridge. The next day, you warm up that rice, thinking nothing of it. But if that rice sat on the counter for too long, letting those spores awaken and multiply, you could be setting yourself up for a very unpleasant evening, perhaps even a trip to the doctor, all because of a simple bowl of rice. Now, moving from rice, let's talk about another household favorite, especially when it comes to leftovers. A versatile protein that often finds its way back onto our plates the next day: chicken. Chicken is a fantastic source of lean protein, and it's so convenient to cook extra for another meal. But like rice, it carries a significant hidden risk if not handled and reheated with extreme care. The primary concern with reheating chicken, or any poultry for that matter, revolves around bacterial contamination. Chicken is highly susceptible to bacteria like Salmonella and Campylobacter, which can cause severe food poisoning. When chicken is cooked, these bacteria are killed. However, if the cooked chicken is allowed to cool slowly, or if it sits at room temperature for too long, any surviving bacteria or new bacteria that have been introduced from the environment can start to multiply at an alarming rate. Chicken is also a high-protein food, which means it's a rich environment for bacterial growth when you then try to reheat it. If the chicken isn't brought up to a sufficiently high internal temperature and kept there for long enough, those multiplying bacteria won't be killed off. You end up eating a meal that's teeming with active bacteria, ready to wreak havoc on your system. For us seniors, the consequences of bacterial food poisoning from chicken can be much more severe than for younger individuals. Our immune systems may not be as robust in fighting off these infections, and we're more prone to complications like dehydration, prolonged illness, and even kidney problems. A bout of food poisoning that might just be a miserable day for a younger person could lead to several days of intense sickness, weakness, and a much longer recovery period for us, potentially even requiring hospitalization, not to mention the unpleasant symptoms of nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and fever that can completely wipe out your energy and quality of life for a while. So, what are the actionable steps for safe chicken reheating? Just like with rice, rapid cooling is paramount. After cooking, if you have leftover chicken, cool it down and refrigerate it within 1 hour. Divide larger pieces into smaller portions so they cool faster. Store it in airtight containers in the coldest part of your refrigerator. When it comes to reheating, thoroughness is key. You must reheat chicken until it is piping hot all the way through. Steaming, with no cold spots. If you have a food thermometer, the internal temperature should reach 74 degrees, 165 degrees. Never just warm it up. You're trying to eliminate bacteria, not just make it palatable. And here's another critical rule: only reheat chicken once. If you cook a large batch, it's often best to portion it out before cooling and refrigerating, so you only take out and reheat what you plan to eat in that single sitting. Alternatively, consider repurposing leftover chicken without direct reheating. Shred it cold for a salad or a sandwich, or add it to a soup or stew that will be thoroughly cooked from scratch, effectively cooking it anew. We've all been there: a lovely Sunday roast chicken, so delicious you want to make it last. You carve off what you need for dinner, then pop the rest in the fridge. The next day, you microwave a plate of chicken and vegetables. If that chicken wasn't cooled properly, or if it sat out too long, you're creating a perfect environment for bacteria to flourish. And simply warming it up might not be enough to kill them, leading to a nasty case of food poisoning that could knock you off your feet for days. These first two, rice and chicken, are very common culprits, and paying attention to them can make a world of difference to your digestive health and overall well-being. But there are 3 more foods that might surprise you, and understanding their risks is just as vital. So, let's turn our attention to our next food. A humble staple often found in our fridges after a big meal: potatoes. So, let's turn our attention to our next food. A humble staple often found in our fridges after a big meal: potatoes. Potatoes, whether baked, boiled, or roasted, are comforting, versatile, and often a core part of many hearty meals. And just like rice, they can become surprisingly dangerous if not handled properly when it comes to leftovers. The specific concern with cooked potatoes isn't just about bacterial growth in general, but about a particularly nasty one, Clostridium botulinum, the bacterium responsible for botulism. This might sound alarming, and botulism is indeed rare, but it's incredibly serious, even life-threatening. The spores of Clostridium botulinum are naturally found in soil and on vegetables, including potatoes. While cooking kills the active bacteria, the spores can survive. The real danger arises when cooked potatoes are left at room temperature, especially when they're wrapped in foil or placed in an airtight container. Why is this so risky? Because Clostridium botulinum is anaerobic, meaning it thrives in environments with very little or no oxygen. A warm, moist, oxygen-free environment is its perfect breeding ground. Inside that foil-wrapped potato, or in a tightly sealed container on the counter, the spores can germinate and begin producing a powerful neurotoxin. And here's the frightening part: unlike the bacteria in rice or chicken, reheating these potatoes, no matter how thoroughly, will not destroy the botulinum toxin. You could be eating a perfectly warmed potato that looks and smells normal, but contains a deadly poison. For us, as we age, our bodies are often less resilient to such severe toxins. Symptoms of botulism can include blurred or double vision, drooping eyelids, difficulty speaking or swallowing, dry mouth, and muscle weakness. These symptoms typically appear 18 to 36 hours after consuming contaminated food, but can vary. It's not just a bad stomach ache. It can lead to paralysis and respiratory failure, requiring immediate medical attention and often intensive care. It's a medical emergency that no one wants to face. So, how do we safely handle cooked potatoes? The key is to break that anaerobic, warm environment as quickly as possible. If you bake potatoes in foil, remove them from the foil as soon as they are cooked and allow them to cool quickly on a plate or wire rack. Never leave them wrapped in foil at room temperature overnight or even for extended periods. As with other foods, refrigerate cooked potatoes immediately after cooling them down, ideally within 1 to 2 hours. Initially, you can even leave the container slightly uncovered in the fridge to help them cool faster. Then cover them once they're cold. Store them in the coldest part of your refrigerator. When you do reheat them, ensure they are heated thoroughly until steaming hot throughout, and aim to consume any leftover cooked potatoes within 1 to 2 days. Think about those lovely baked potatoes, pulled from the oven, maybe left on the counter while you finish preparing the rest of dinner. Or perhaps they sat there overnight, still wrapped in their foil cocoon. That foil, while keeping them warm initially, traps moisture and creates a perfect low-oxygen environment. If those little botulism spores are present, they can multiply and produce a dangerous toxin that no amount of reheating will ever get rid of. It's a silent threat, and the consequences can be incredibly severe. We're not just talking about an upset stomach here. Botulism is a genuine medical emergency. From the starchy goodness of potatoes, let's shift our focus to something green and seemingly innocent. Often a healthy addition to many meals: spinach and other leafy greens. You might be surprised to see these healthy vegetables on a list of foods to be cautious about reheating. They're packed with vitamins and minerals, and we're always encouraged to eat more greens. However, the concern here is different from bacterial poisoning, and it relates to naturally occurring compounds within the plants themselves. Leafy green vegetables like spinach, kale, lettuce, and even celery contain high levels of nitrates. Nitrates are generally harmless on their own. The problem arises when these nitrates are cooked, and then the food is allowed to cool slowly, or reheated multiple times. In these conditions, enzymes and certain bacteria can convert the nitrates into nitrites, while nitrites themselves aren't ideal. The real worry is that these nitrites can then go on to form compounds called nitrosamines. especially in the presence of protein in high heat. Some nitrosamines are known to be carcinogenic, meaning they can potentially increase the risk of certain cancers with long-term exposure. For us, as we get older, our bodies have accumulated more exposures over the years, and our natural detoxification pathways might not be as efficient. While a single instance of reheating greens might not cause immediate harm, chronic exposure to potentially harmful compounds is something we should actively try to minimize. It's about reducing the overall chemical burden on our system. Some individuals also report digestive discomfort or a change in taste when repeatedly reheating greens. So, what's the best approach for spinach and other leafy greens? Ideally, these vegetables are best eaten fresh or immediately after cooking. If you cook a large batch, it's generally best to discard any significant leftovers. However, if you absolutely must save them, cool them rapidly and refrigerate immediately. When reheating, do so quickly and only once, ensuring it reaches a high temperature. Avoid reheating large portions or attempting to reheat them multiple times. A very practical tip is to cook only the amount of greens you plan to eat in one sitting. If you frequently use greens in smoothies or salads, opting for them raw or very lightly steamed and consumed fresh is a wonderful way to avoid any reheating concerns altogether. You whip up a healthy sautéed spinach side dish with your dinner. It's delicious, vibrant, full of nutrients, but you have a little left over. You pop it in the fridge, and the next day, you warm it up to go with your lunch. The worry here isn't immediate food poisoning, but rather the gradual formation of compounds that are best avoided. It's like adding tiny drops of something you don't want into your body over time. For our bodies, which have already seen many years of life, reducing any potential burden is key. And finally, for our fifth food, a breakfast staple that's also a surprisingly common leftover in many households: eggs. Eggs are a powerhouse of nutrition, protein, vitamins, minerals, and incredibly versatile. Whether scrambled, fried, or as part of an omelet, they're a quick and easy meal. But when it comes to reheating cooked eggs, especially those that have been mixed or scrambled, there are definitely cautions we need to be aware of. The main concern with reheating cooked eggs is similar to chicken: the risk of bacterial growth, particularly salmonella. Eggs are highly perishable and, once cooked, their protein structure changes, making them more susceptible to bacterial contamination if not handled correctly. If cooked eggs are allowed to sit at room temperature for too long, or if they are cooled and then reheated improperly, any present bacteria can multiply rapidly. Just like with chicken, simply warming them up might not be enough to kill off these dangerous invaders. Beyond the bacterial risk, the protein in eggs can also denature further upon reheating, leading to a rubbery texture that is less palatable and can even be harder to digest for some people. For us, as we age, our digestive systems can become more sensitive, making us more vulnerable to foodborne illnesses like salmonella. The symptoms: severe stomach cramps, diarrhea, vomiting, fever, can lead to significant dehydration and weakness, potentially extending recovery time and exacerbating any existing health conditions. It's certainly not worth the risk for a quick reheat. So, how do we handle leftover cooked eggs safely? The safest approach is always to consume cooked eggs immediately after they are prepared. Fresh is truly best here. If you find yourself with cooked egg leftovers, cool them rapidly and get them into the refrigerator as soon as possible. Ideally, within the hour. When you decide to reheat them, it's crucial to do so very thoroughly. They must be heated until they are steaming hot all the way through, with no cold spots. You should never just warm them up. It's also generally advised to only reheat eggs once. Often, the texture of reheated scrambled eggs or omelets isn't very appealing anyway. They tend to become rubbery and dry. If you have leftover hard-boiled eggs, they are generally fine to eat cold within a day or two if stored properly. But reheating them is usually discouraged due to texture and potential safety concerns if not done perfectly. Imagine a big Sunday morning breakfast with scrambled eggs, bacon, and toast. You make a little too much scrambled egg, thinking you'll just save it for a quick bite later. The problem is, eggs are incredibly sensitive. They're a perfect breeding ground for bacteria if not handled correctly. Just warming them up in the microwave might not be enough to kill those invisible invaders. You might end up with an upset stomach or, worse, a full-blown case of food poisoning, which, at our age, can really take a toll. It's often safer and tastier to just whip up a fresh batch. We've covered 5 significant foods that deserve special attention when it comes to reheating. Understanding these risks isn't about fear. It's about empowerment. It's about giving you the knowledge to make safer, healthier choices for yourself and your loved ones. Now, let's bring all this together and talk about the bigger picture and what you can do moving forward. So, there you have it: rice, chicken, potatoes, spinach, and eggs. 5 everyday foods that, when reheated carelessly, can actually pose a hidden threat to our well-being. It might seem like a lot to remember, with all the cooling times and temperatures, but really, it boils down to a few simple principles that can protect your precious health. Quick cooling to get food out of the danger zone, proper refrigeration in airtight containers, and then ensuring any reheating is incredibly thorough until the food is piping hot throughout. And sometimes, just knowing when it's better to simply enjoy fresh or, if in doubt, to discard. Now, please don't get me wrong. This isn't about making you anxious every time you look at your leftovers. It's about being informed. It's about making smart, mindful choices that protect your precious health and truly allow you to live your best life. Our bodies, as we gracefully age, deserve a little extra care and attention. And sometimes that means being more vigilant about what we eat and how we prepare it. Remember, knowledge is power, especially when it comes to safeguarding your health. Small, conscious changes like these, simply by being aware of how certain foods behave when reheated, can make an enormous difference in how you feel day to day, how much energy you have, and how well your body can fight off any unwelcome visitors. Think about it: who wants to spend precious days recovering from a nasty bout of food poisoning when you could be out enjoying your hobbies, spending time with family, or simply feeling vibrant and energetic? Our golden years are meant for living, thriving, and experiencing joy, not for battling preventable illnesses. These simple precautions are a small investment in your comfort, your energy, and your overall peace of mind. It's about respecting your body and the incredible journey it has taken you on. Just like we might choose comfortable shoes for our joints, or take a little more time crossing the street. Being deliberate about our food choices is another beautiful way we show ourselves care and compassion. And it's not just about avoiding the negative, it's about embracing the positive. When you're not bogged down by digestive upset or feeling unwell, you have more capacity for all the good things life has to offer. More laughter, more leisurely walks, more time for those precious moments with loved ones. It really does all tie together into a more joyful, healthful existence. I'd truly love to hear your thoughts on this. Have you ever experienced an upset stomach or felt unwell after reheating a particular food? Do you have any clever tips or tricks for storing or using leftovers safely that you've discovered over the years? Share your experiences and wisdom in the comments below. Your insights and stories could help so many others in our wonderful community who are navigating similar concerns. We can learn so much from each other. If you found this information helpful, if it sparked a new understanding or gave you a fresh perspective on something you thought you already knew, please do give this video a thumbs up. It truly helps us reach more incredible people like you who are committed to living their best, healthiest lives. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing to our channel. We're here to bring you more practical, easy to understand advice, inspiration, and encouragement to help you navigate this wonderful stage of life with confidence, vitality, and true well-being. And now, for that something that might surprise you, which I promised at the very beginning of our conversation. You see, the biggest takeaway isn't just about avoiding these 5 foods when reheated. or even just about being meticulous with cooling and temperatures. It's about rethinking our entire approach to leftovers. The surprising truth is that sometimes, the safest and healthiest option isn't to reheat at all. At least not in the conventional sense. For many foods, especially those on our list, if you want to keep them for another meal, consider transforming them into something new that doesn't require direct reheating, or that will be cooked from scratch. For example, instead of reheating leftover cooked chicken, shred it and use it cold in a crisp salad or a delicious sandwich. Instead of reheating potatoes, mash them into a cold potato salad with some fresh herbs. Or slice them and add them to a frittata that will be cooked from scratch. This repurposing approach often sidesteps the very issues we discussed, as you're either eating them cold or incorporating them into a new dish that will be thoroughly cooked through from start to finish. It's about being creative in the kitchen, about thinking one step ahead, and sometimes, the best way to avoid poisoning your body with questionable reheated food is to simply not reheat it in the traditional sense, but to give it a fresh, safe purpose. This proactive thinking truly sets you up for success and keeps you safe, turning potential risks into healthy opportunities. It's not about waste, it's about smart, healthy living and enjoying every single bite. Remember, every day is an opportunity to make choices that support your health and happiness. You are in control of so much more than you think. Keep learning, keep living vibrantly, and keep cherishing every precious moment. Live your best life, at every age, with every delicious and safe meal.